Today I want to speak on a topic requested by a few of my subscribers and debated by many. Is your dog overweight? Is your dog underweight? What is the ideal weight for a dog that is so many inches tall? Now this is a very important topic for many reasons. But before we dive in, don't forget to stomp on that like button and subscribe for more free content. Also feel free to visit battlebredcanines.com for updates and free downloadable content. If you'd like to check out my merch, feel free to visit battlebredmerch.com. I've actually just released 2 new designs. I thank you in advance, and the BBK9 family definitely appreciates the support. So first, let's try to break down what it means to be overweight, because in my opinion, this seems to be a big problem today for a lot of dogs and dog owners. What's even worse is a lot of people won't even face the fact that their dog is indeed overweight. If you love your dog, your number one priority should be the health and happiness of your dog. An overweight dog can't tell you it's in pain. A lot of it might have to do with what you feed the dog, but we'll get into that later. Many people who own large, intimidating dogs often think bigger is better. This couldn't be further from the truth. For example, I take Jax, my Rottweiler, out with me on occasion, and when people get a look at him, they sometimes say, "Wow, he's huge. What does he weigh? 140? 150? Not even close." His weight usually ranges between 98 and 105 pounds. He stands at around 28 inches tall at the withers. For those of you who don't know, this is the indentation between the shoulder blades where the neck and shoulders meet. So to figure out your dog's height, you measure from the floor to the withers. For anyone who has a Rottweiler that actually weighs 150 pounds at 28 inches tall, your dog is either extremely jacked or, bad news, extremely unhealthy. I'm no expert, but I feel like at least some of the hip and joint problems we see in large breeds can be avoided if we keep our dogs at a fit or even conditioned weight. So let's break down some definitions. I'm going to go through some photos I dug up on Google and take a look at some different dogs. Again, I'm no expert, but in a lot of cases, it's pretty easy to identify whether a dog is conditioned or not based on a photo. Every so-called dog expert seems to have their own standard on whether a dog is overweight or underweight, so I'm going to break mine down into 7 categories. Starved, underfed, conditioned, fit or pet weight, which I consider to be the same thing, too muscular, because yes, that can be a problem and I will explain why, overweight, or extremely overweight. So for starters, let's state the obvious. If your dog is starved, you flat out shouldn't own a dog. With a starved dog, you'll see protruding hips, ribs, and spine, a dull and unhealthy coat, a deterioration of muscle, lethargy, trouble digesting food, a lowered immune system, and oftentimes even eyesight issues. A starved dog should not be confused with underweight or underfed. Some people often confuse an underweight dog for being a dog that is, quote, conditioned. An underweight dog displays some of the same visual characteristics as a starved dog, but not to the same extreme. Side note, after giving birth, some females sometimes drop a lot of weight and look a little rough around the edges. I'm guessing this is simply part of the process of whelping and feeding pups. Still, I think proper feeding and supplementation can help with this issue. If any of my professional breeders out there would like to add any helpful advice on this topic, leave it in the comments. Thanks in advance. Now, a conditioned dog is one who would normally be considered simply fit or pet weight, but the owner or conditioner works the dog for a certain period of time or on a regular basis using a treadmill, a slat mill, a flirt pole, and so on. These exercises are used to bring a dog to its physical apex for performance purposes. A conditioned dog will have muscle covering its hips, spine, and ribs. In most cases, you could still see some ribs, and in some cases, you could see just a bit of the spine depending on the position of the dog. A conditioned dog will have a healthy coat, good stamina, and should appear cut and ready for work. Dogs in good shape are usually very lively and energetic, and contrary to what you fur moms believe, they are usually very well fed either the raw diet, high-end kibble, or a mix between the two. So write this down, boys and girls. Starved, underfed, and conditioned are 3 completely different things. Now before we get into the extremes, I'd like to draw the line between pet weight and overweight. Pet weight, in my opinion, should be considered the same as fit weight. I consider my Rottweiler to be fit or pet weight. I give him a good workout here and there, and I'm very careful about not overfeeding him. Now this dog here, no offense intended, is overweight in my opinion. This can lead to health problems. Think of it this way. In most cases, the man with the big beer belly is not even close to being as healthy as the man with 6-pack abs. Make sense? Unless you plan on taking your dog to hunt hogs or pull weight or take part in any other performance-based activity, you don't really have to stress conditioning. But still, it's best to keep your dog fit and active. Now let's draw the line between being bully and being fat. I noticed a lot of fat dogs in the American bully community. It's almost as if some people think that the more a dog weighs, the bullier he is. The fact is, when you pack more weight onto a pet weight or fit dog, you are simultaneously shortening that dog's life. Moving on. Let's talk about dogs with too much muscle. Believe it or not, this can also be a bad thing. Number 1, it hinders the dog's movement. Number 2, again, I'm no expert, but you'd be surprised how many bodybuilders in the world today are actually unhealthy. If we use the same practices as a bodybuilder to bulk up a dog to the extreme, there is risks involved. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with a big bulky American bully with good movement and drive, but overkill is overkill. Now, while we're on the topic of weight and conditioning, let's quickly touch on what some call winter weight. In some cases, dogs will put on a few extra pounds in the colder months of the year. I'm not sure whether this happens naturally or if the owners fatten them up a bit because they live outdoors. I keep mine in the house for the time being and always have for the most part, so I never really noticed a fluctuation in weight. I might build an outdoor setup at some point, so if you have any input on seasonal feeding adjustments, leave it in the comments. I'd really appreciate it. Before we get to the last category, let's quickly cover catch weight. Say that 10 times fast. For those of you who don't know what catch weight is, it usually means a pit bull who is above 55 pounds. Hunters usually prefer catch weight dog for, you guessed it, catching wild game. Now before we wrap it up, it's finally time to bring the hammer down on the last category. If your dog looks like this, why, bro? Just why? This is shameful. This is an extremely overweight dog. Anyone with common sense should see that this is simply a train wreck. Rule number 1 of owning a dog is keeping the dog happy, healthy, and trained. The key word here is healthy. Now let me get out of here before I start going John Wick on these people. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more free content. Don't forget to share this across all of your social media platforms. Don't forget to visit BattleBredCanines.com for updates and free downloadable content. Also be sure to check out BattleBredMerch.com if you'd like to check out my dope new merch. The BBK9 family definitely appreciates the support. Thanks for watching. I love you all. And as always, most importantly, God bless.